growing up, I always felt like I was that kid that was always sold short, right? I was in America, but yet I was still poor as hell and didn't have anything.
Leo Climaco is an entrepreneur who has dedicated his life to raising awareness for individuals with special needs and helping others build a brighter future.
That presents me with the question of COVID. What happened during that time frame?
Like, there's some really dark nights, there's some really dark days where I didn't know what the fuck to do. Like, I didn't know where to pull money from. I didn't know how to run payroll the next week. I really thought that my company was gonna go into shams.
I feel like you would be able to articulate, the process of ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca is called the mother of all medicines. She will reveal herself to you, and she'll show you what your reality is, you wanting to see it or not.
What would be 3 key things you would say to a beginning entrepreneur that is trying to start a company of any size?
Never give up, but know when to quit.
Leo, welcome to the Attractive Mindset Podcast, man. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, bro. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely.
What a great studio you have here.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man. And so I got a chance to meet you at the Podcast of Profits event.
Yes.
You had a gravitational aura. A lot of people in the room gravitating towards you. You stand out in the room, all of that stuff. And so
it helps to be tall.
Yeah. For the people who don't know you and what you have going on right now, introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. So I am a husband, a father, an entrepreneur, a coach, a mentor, an author, a speaker. But mostly I'm someone just trying to do what God wants me to do. I'm someone that comes from a very humble beginning. My parents immigrated from Brazil. I was 7 years old when I came to New York. Lived in New York for 25 years. Now I've been here in South Florida for 4 years. My dad came with $2,000 in his pocket and just, hopes and dreams. And now 30 years later, I'm the first almost multimillionaire in my family. I'm someone who never took no for an answer. Someone who always stood. I understood the sacrifice that my parents took to be where they were and where we are. And I never took that for granted. I've always wanted to make them proud. I've always wanted to make sure that their sacrifice of leaving their country, of leaving their friends and their families, the place where they grew up, so I could have a better life, So I've always carried that. In Brazil, I have about 19 cousins.
Wow.
All male.
Wow.
Okay. And I'm the only one that left, that was taken out of their place of birth, of where all my entire family is. And I feel like I was given that golden ticket, like, you're the chosen one that's going to go to America and have the opportunity of living the American dream, and that weighed heavy on me for a long time because I've always wanted to make everybody proud. And thankfully I did. I know that I have, I know that I do. And now my job, my mission is to help others. So my wife and I, we own a therapy agency for kids with autism. We do in-home and in-school behavior modification. This is all in New York City.
Gotcha.
We have a contract with the DOE, with the Department of Education of New York City. And we service their clients at home and in school. So I hire therapists and they go to the school 8 hours a day, supporting that one child, making sure that he understands what's going on in the classroom, that he's not being left behind. So that was really my first act of service and really giving back and really wanting to really help out these families. And now I have my podcast, which is something that I never thought that I'd be doing. I began it about a year ago.
What's the name of your podcast?
The Leo Climaco podcast.
Okay.
This is all about leadership. If you're building a business, leadership is that glue. And without leadership, your business falls apart. Maybe you don't want to build a business. Maybe you want an extra stream of income, or maybe you just want to change your relationship with yourself or change your relationship with others, or maybe your finances. Text me transformation if you want that transformation in those areas to this number, 646-787-0689. We're going to change your life in the nick of time. You already know the vibes. Mindset Mogul.
We just shot our 43rd episode.
Nice.
Yeah. It's something that, I was someone that used to be scared out of my mind. Can we curse? Can I curse here?
Yeah.
I'd be scared shitless to get on stage and speak. Like public speaking was one of my biggest fears. I really would get nervous, start stuttering, sweating, shake. Just didn't handle it very well. So I decided to go break that fear. I decided to go take some speaking classes, speaking courses, get certified. And that really opened up my mind and really opened up a new world of possibilities for me, which led me to podcasting, right? I felt comfortable speaking, felt comfortable on stage. I said, all right, now let's go. You've already crossed this barrier. What else can you do? Where else can we go? And that has also led to my coaching program. So I'm pretty busy.
No, I see that, and I want to go back, and there's a lot of different things you touched on real quick, but I want to go back to, your parents being immigrants and you coming over here. Did they get into any entrepreneurship thing, or did they take what would be considered normal route of work?
It's a great question. So my parents took the traditional route.
Okay.
My parents are as traditional as it gets. They've been together 48 years, married for 44.
Wow.
Yeah. My mother comes from a very strict family. Her dad was military. So he was very they were engaged and she had to be home at 9 p.m.
Wow.
That's how strict my grandfather was.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So they are as traditional as it gets. My mother got here and she went to go clean homes. My dad was giving out flyers on the street for 3 years. In Brazil, my dad was an audio and visual engineer. Eventually in New York, he found a way to get a job in his profession. And I'm very grateful for that man. His name's Jack, because he liked my dad so much that he sponsored us for a green card.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were here illegally for a long time. About 11 years we were here illegally. Me, my mom, my dad, and my sister. We never really had much. My dad never bought a car, never bought a house. He was someone that was just very content with just making his money, paying his bills, being able to live here, being able to experience this. He was very satisfied. And I wasn't. And that gave me a hunger, gave me a drive, because I wanted more, right? I felt like, all right, you brought me to America. Now I want to have this experience, this American life, this White House picket fence, you know? Give me that dream life. So I began. It's like at 16, I got my license. As soon as I was able to do it, which I got my social, I got my papers, my working permit. I got my license at 16. That gave me such freedom. And then I began working. As soon as I was able to, I began working. I gravitated towards technology because my dad was in that audio and visual engineering space. And I became an audio and visual technician for a long time.
You went to school for it, or just
No, my dad taught me.
Gotcha.
Really just years of experience of him taking me to jobs and me working with him. I just sucked in all that knowledge and I liked it. Something that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed putting up TVs and running wires and installing speakers and building racks. And I really, really enjoyed that. I got to a point where I didn't like it anymore. I got really tired of it. I got tired of being the guy inside the wall running wires.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be the guy sitting behind the laptop.
Sending people to go run the wires.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I went and I got IT certified. I went to college eventually. It took me I was almost 22, 23 when I went. And I majored in computer networking. And that's really when my career took off. I was an intern for 2 years, not getting paid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doing computer networking?
Doing computer break fix.
Gotcha.
I was working for a nonprofit in Brooklyn. I lived in Queens. Took me an hour to get there every morning. I wasn't getting paid a dime. I was there for a year.
Wow.
And then I left that job because of that internship. I got another one working for, it was an English school for it was basically a private prep English school for rich kids. Kids from China, Singapore, Russia, all wealthy kids would come to this school to learn English and have this American experience, right?
Yeah.
They had campuses all over New York, Florida, Toronto, Vancouver, California. So they got me an internship there. A buddy of mine did. I applied. They interviewed. They're paying me $10 an hour. I was in that role for about a year when eventually they offered me a junior tech role, and then eventually they offered me a senior tech role. So I was there for 4 years.
Wow. So in hearing experiences like that, it's a two-part question, do you think it's lucrative for people to get into an internship in today's age? And what do you do to sustain yourself while you're in that internship?
It's a great question. So I do think internships are very, very valuable, but I would also say learn a trade. Learn a skill that you can fall back on, right? I always knew that technology and IT was the future. So I always have that in my back pocket. God forbid, I can always go get an IT job. But to answer your question, I made a deal with my parents. I was still living at home at that time. I told them, listen, I need you to support me for 2 years. I need you to really hold me down. I'm going to do internships. I'm going to do certifications. I'm going to go gain the knowledge that I need to get a job and move out of your house. But I need you to back me up. So it's a two-way street, right? I got to do my part for them to do their part.
Yeah.
They agreed. And because I was so determined, they really helped me out. They really were able to give me an okay lifestyle while I was able to get this accomplished.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, that's dope. And so at what point, New York, I'm from New York as well. I'm from Brooklyn. And so growing up in New York, do you feel like if you had moved anywhere else in the United States, you'd be the same person that you are now?
I don't think so. I think New York is a special, special creature.
It is.
Those streets definitely made me. I've walked through multiple different spectrums of New York, and I don't think I'd be who I am today without doing that, without having that experience, without living in a place where there's people from all over the world. Right? Do you know that store B&H?
Yep.
I worked there.
Wow.
I worked there for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Right before I began doing my internships.
Gotcha.
They have a very large Brazilian clientele.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So I quit doing my audio and visual, got my job at B&H, was there for 2 years. And then I was like, all right, let me go get my IT stuff. And that's when my IT career began. But because I knew so much about technology and cameras and microphones and equipment and sound systems, and I spoke Portuguese, one of my dad's friends knew one of the managers at B&H who was looking for someone like me. So they hired me. I was one of their first employees ever to be allowed to sell anything at B&H.
Wow.
Because they're very segmented, right? The camera guys can only do camera. The video guys can only do video. I could float and sell anything because I spoke Portuguese and no one else did. So that was a really cool experience. I met a lot of people, learned a lot about Judaism and the Jewish culture, because if you guys don't know, B&H is a Jewish-owned store, and 90% of people who work there are Jewish. So it's very interesting to get that, aspect. One of my best friends growing up is Muslim. The other one is Eastern European. I went to high school with a bunch of Russians while growing up with a bunch of Brazilians while having a bunch of Spanish friends. It's like this mixture, this exactly this jambalaya of people, and you learn all these cultures, all these ways, all these different ways of living and seeing the world. So definitely New York is stamped, tattooed in who I am.
No, absolutely. And, just the New York experience and all, just being around so many different people, the drive that's out there. And this is what I try to tell people.
It's competitive.
It's competitive, but it's like fierce, yet it's not as unfriendly as movies or things would make it seem like.
It can be a little bit of both, right? Depending
where you are.
Who you're talking to.
But it's a nice little mix of just everything. You literally might have a great conversation with somebody, you might get cursed out in the next breath, you know? And so having that mixture just become part of your core helps you grow as an individual. And I've always said, I want my kids to grow up in New York, no matter where I'm at in the world. I want them to have some type of roots going through New York, having to deal with public transportation on that level of it. Like, you're forced to do.
Having to spend an hour and a half on a train.
Yes.
Transferring from train to train to train.
Yes. Like the survival skills that naturally develop from you just getting from point A to point B is immaculate.
It's incredible.
And, you mentioned something where you got in because of a connection, and so what happens, or
what a lot in my life. What
happens is people nowadays, especially in minority cultures, they frown upon nepotism. And even like with the LeBron situation, everybody's talking about, he only got in because of his father. That's a good thing.
I agree.
We have to be able to leverage on these connections. And
what about Giannis and his two brothers?
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot more than just LeBron, but people like to. There's nepotism in a lot of places.
Yes,
a lot of places, especially just not sports.
Listen, my dad got me my first job doing audio and visual. I was kicked out of high school for not going at my junior year. I had 181 cuts in 1 year. I didn't go. Wow. I wasn't there the entire year.
Where were you? Doing
stupid shit, hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Fair enough.
Literally doing everything I should not have been doing. Well, it was what it was, right? It was part of my life. It's made me who I am today. But I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, right? Which was going to class and learning. So the school kicked me out. I went to Forest Hills High School. And my dad said, there's no fucking way that you're going to be on the streets. I'm putting your ass to work. So he asked that same boss to give me a job, and he got me a job. And that was when my AV career took off. So, I'm thankful for my dad for pulling me in there and teaching me the ropes and teaching me everything that he knew. Without him having that foresight to really pull me into that company and keep me in that world. Okay. You don't want to study, but you got to work. You got to do something, right? So I think that's bullshit. Like, I saw this meme that said it was comparing stats between Bronny
and another guy
and one of his teammates.
Yeah.
Right. And they were trying to say that Bronny took that kid's spot, basically. Right. But there are 29 other teams who also didn't draft this kid.
He actually did get drafted.
Did he?
Yeah.
By who?
By Sacramento Kings.
Okay. Good for him.
And so this is why I always tell people it's not the media's job to tell the truth. And
Nope.
people will post anything and
Their
you'll
job's to tell a
automatically
story.
go believe it.
Yes. This is
But
a great example of that.
He did get drafted, yeah. He didn't get drafted early, but he did get picked up. And so it's not like he missed his opportunity or anything, but
Right.
people love making comparisons.
Yeah, they love storylines, they love drama,
Mhm.
and they love to people feel a certain way about this Bronny thing
Mhm.
because people think it's unfair when others have certain privileges and certain paths that are cleared and easier than theirs.
Yeah.
Part of it is jealousy, part of it is envy, right? They wish they had that ability to have a dad like LeBron James that can pull you into the NBA and pave the way for you.
Yeah.
And part of it, they create hate for it because, you know, they can't have it that way. They don't have it that way. Their life is harder. Their path is, you know, a steeper path with a lot of barriers.
100%.
And it's just, you got to accept it.
You have to. And I can't even lie. I was one of those people at one point in my life. Like the trauma that I had, I got kicked out at 16. I got expelled from school, had to go to Jamaica High School in Queens. Like I was doing all the wrong shit at the wrong time, you know, just like anybody else, just trying to figure life out. And
I took my GED
man.
at Jamaica High School.
Jamaica was rough.
Rough. I took my GED test there.
Bruh. You know, Jamaica was rough.
Yeah.
And I would come upon these kids who got work from their parents or got cars from their parents, or even later on in my life when I went to the military, I went to the Marine Corps for some years and we went on deployment and everything.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. And even in doing that journey, like people when their family would visit them and do these all type of stuff, I would have envy and I would unknowingly just be like, man, you didn't pay for that, or man, your family helped you with that, or man, your family supported you, as if it was a bad thing.
Right.
And in me getting into the psychology realm, I had to understand that that was a lot of trauma and that was a lot of inner hate that I had to unfold, because I was like, yo, I never had this experience like that.
Yes.
And so, you know, bringing that light up for Bronny and all of them, and just being able to clap for somebody else that has that opportunity to get ahead.
Right.
It's great.
To that point, growing up, I always felt like I was that kid that was always sold short, right? I was in America, but yet I was still poor as hell and didn't have anything. And all my friends all their parents were buying cars and leasing cars and buying homes and going on vacation. And my family didn't do that. So I think for me, it kind of worked in a weird way, because as badly as I wanted my life to be that way, today I'm really thankful that it wasn't. Because if you compare all those friends that I grew up with, to me, there's a clear difference.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that, like, because I wasn't given, I had to go do for myself. And they were given. Things were given to them. Therefore, they didn't really ever develop that drive or that skill to go seek and to go explore and to go take a risk. You know, I was forced to go take risks because I wanted things, and I knew that my parents had done their best and they weren't going to be able to provide for me the lifestyle that I want to live, that I wanted to live. So that created something in me that drove me to always seek more and always seek more. There were many doors that were opened for me within my path, and I knew how to take advantage and take opportunity when that door knocked. You know, I was ready to answer, even if I wasn't. I said yes, and I figured it out.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, you know, that always makes me present the question of, you know, now that you have kids, do you still feel like, because you have the ability to provide in ways that you didn't have when you were younger, that the dynamic is the same? Because one of the older quotes that I like goes, you know, Tough times create tough men.
Yep.
Tough men create good times. Good times create weak men.
Yep.
Weak men create tough times. And it
Yep.
becomes this paradigm. And so how do you approach that?
It's hard. I'll start by saying that it's hard because when you have kids, you want to give them everything. And because you had nothing, you want to give them everything. You know? So my wife and I do struggle with that. It's a balance. You know, they have a strict routine. They're in bed every day by 7 o'clock. They're eating by 5:30, showering by 6:30, in bed by 7 o'clock. They get maybe 20 minutes of TV while they're eating, 20 to 30 minutes while they're eating. On the weekend, we're a little more lenient. They get an hour to 2 hours of TV. So we've tried to coordinate their lives in a manner where they can have as normal of a life as possible. But I do feel like as they grow up, I'm going to have to create scenarios so they feel hardship. Because life for them is too easy.
Yeah.
My kids are very, very blessed, very, very lucky. So, like, you know, like my son is going to a private prep school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, never in my wildest dreams that I ever thought that I'd be able to provide that for my kid.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I'm going to push him to do internships. I'm going to push him to work from the bottom up. I think if things are too easily handed to you, you don't value life and you don't value the sacrifice that your parents put in, right? But thankfully, I have very, very good boys. And they, just from their, you know, I got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I know they're young, but I can tell that they have a really good grasp on things. Like they really get it. And I think that will develop more as they get older.
No, that's dope. And in meeting your wife, you met your wife in New York?
In New York. I've known my wife since I was 10.
Wow.
We met in the 5th grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's like the textbook definition, high school sweetheart.
We've been together since we were 18.
Wow.
Yeah. Been together for 18 years, married for 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like part of that is because of how you grew up with your parents being the same, or you know, how was your connection really solidified to you being like, this is my person?
100%. I think my parents played a huge role. I think seeing the power of unity of family, what can be accomplished together. Like, it was very difficult for my parents to leave everything and immigrate with 2 small kids to America and start over. You know, we really relied on each other. We only had each other, the 4 of us. If we didn't come together, we were going to crumble. So I think growing up and seeing that power, seeing that unity, seeing how much more can be accomplished by uniting and coming together, really drove me to want someone at a very early age. And apparently me and Daniela are soulmates, right? We've done past life regressions, and we were apparently together in the 1600s.
Wow.
And the roles were switched. I was the woman and she was the man.
Wow.
So if you believe in that, which I do, we've been interlocked for eons and eons. So we came back to in this life to finish our journey, which is why we met so young. She's someone that I instantly connected with, instantly felt like I know you. Like, you're my person. You know what I mean? Like,
and so for the people who don't know what a regression is or past life kind of vibe, you know, walk through that a little deeper. Explain, you know, the unfolding of that.
No problem. So it's usually done with someone like a hypnotist,
okay,
or a therapist that knows some form of hypnotism. Basically, someone who knows how to put you under. they put you in a certain meditative state that allows them to tap in to your subconscious. And within that, they'll start asking you questions. And depending on the questions, it can take you to your past, to your future, to a past life, to a future life. And you're able to discover things about yourself. You're able to realize why you have certain quirks and certain habits, or why you feel a certain way, or why you have certain barriers now in your life, right? So I learned that in a past life, I was a dark witch. Like, it's a bit comical, right? It's a bit.
I'm here.
But
here
like it's a bit like what the fuck, you know? But and the interesting part is that I met the woman who taught me witchcraft in this lifetime.
Was that the person that put you under?
No.
Okay.
Somebody else did. But she's someone who did help me heal. She guided me through a healing process.
Gotcha.
Yes. But we discovered that in a past life, she was a dark queen, and I was one of her main disciples.
Wow.
And she taught me dark magic.
Wow.
So now in this lifetime, we've met again for her to teach me white magic. And for her to teach me the path of the light.
And so in you meeting her now, how did that conversation unfold? Because if she has her, dark, if she knows herself from the past, you know yourself from the past, what was that first conversation like?
Very interesting, because I met her through a Zoom call. And we spent 2 hours talking. And there was no fluff. We got right down to it, right down to trying to figure out, peeling all the layers and trying to get right down to the core of the issue, the core of what I wanted to heal. And we felt such a connection with each other. And then she eventually told me that she had known this about herself, for that she had been a dark queen, and that she had asked in this lifetime for God to bring her all the people that she turned into the darkness in that lifetime, to bring them to her in this lifetime, for her to guide them into the light. And we did some deep breathing, some deep meditations, and she was able to see that I was one of those people that came to her because I came to her a lifetime ago.
I feel like you would be able to articulate, the process of ayahuasca to people.
I just did it.
Yeah. You give me that essence. Like,
I literally just did it. 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago.
And so for those who don't know what that is, what is that process? What does it help you go through, and how do you really navigate those waters? Man.
So ayahuasca is called the mother of all medicines. It's a brew. It's a drink that you drink. It's a combination of two plants. I don't recall the name of the two plants, but it's two plants that were discovered in the Amazon by the indigenous people. The story is that it came to a native in a dream that combined these two plants, make this brew, and serve it to your people. And this will give you enlightenment, and it will help you guys clear pathways, clear trauma, clear fog, gain clarity in life and what your path is. That's really the point of ayahuasca. She is the mother of truth. She will reveal herself to you, and she'll show you what your reality is, you wanting to see it or not. Which is why some people say they have bad trips.
Yeah.
It's not really a bad trip.
It's just something they didn't want to see.
Exactly. You just saw some shit about yourself that you didn't like, that you didn't want to see, and it scared the fuck out of you. And you're calling it a bad trip. You know? So my first ceremony, I've known a lot of people who want to do ayahuasca. And I would suggest, if you're going to do it, you got to do it, 1, in the jungle.
Yeah.
And 2, in a ceremonial space with the shaman. There's a lot of close ceremonies held in like Hialeah and Brooklyn. You know, I wouldn't recommend those.
Yeah.
It's not the right setting. It's not the right environment. It's not the right energy.
Yep.
There's too many energies around that are crossing. You got to be in a place where you're at peace, where you're connecting with nature. So Mother Ayahuasca is nature. She is Gaia, right? She is Mother Earth. So you got to be in a place where she's at, where she's most comfortable to welcome you. And if you do it in a big city, in a big industrial type environment, it doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
But ayahuasca is used, I used it to help heal trauma, to help heal wounds, to help me come more into my truth, to help me realize certain things about myself that I've been not seeing, not understanding, neglecting, hurting others, not loving myself.
Yeah.
You know, it was literally 10 years of therapy in one night.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the whole journey is just one night?
We began at about 7 p.m. It was an hour and a half of him explaining the rules and lighting candles and getting his equipment together and telling me the process. And then about 8:30, 9 o'clock, I had my first brew. I ended up having 2.5 cups throughout the night. The ceremony ended at about 1:30 in the morning. But I felt the effects until about like 3, 4 in the morning. Yeah, I would compare it. It's hard to compare it, but if there was one thing to compare it to, it'd be mushrooms.
Got it.
It's very, very similar to mushrooms. But I think it's a little deeper than mushrooms. It cuts deeper. I think mushrooms is more psychedelic. I think Mother Ayahuasca is more revealing.
Spiritual.
Way more spiritual. Yes. It's the journey in.
Yeah.
Right? It's the you diving into the pool of you and rediscovering who you are and discovering who you are.
And so have you ever done like remote viewing, astral projection, any of those things?
I have not, but definitely interested in it.
Okay.
I've also done combo. You know what combo is?
I'm not familiar with combo.
So combo is a frog poison. So I have, I don't know if you see 3 little dots here on my shoulder. The whole thing's about 20 minutes. And the purpose of combo is to cleanse you. So you do it with a trained person, right? Someone who can hold the space for you. And what they do is there's a ceremony also. They burn a piece of wood and they make 3 holes on your shoulder or on your back. And then there's this frog in the Amazon where if you like swipe your finger on the frog, you get like a paste. And that paste is a poison. So he takes that paste and puts it in each hole that he just made on my shoulder. That's like the portal into my body.
Yeah.
Man, for 10 minutes, I felt like I was going to die.
Wow.
It was super intense. It was one of the scariest experience that I've had in a really long time, because you don't know, your first time doing it, you don't know the limit, you don't know how far it's going to take you.
Yeah.
And it's 10 minutes of agony.
And so what thoughts are you having during those 10 minutes?
It's going to be okay. Take a deep breath. Focus on your breathing, meditate. I was really trying to focus on not passing out and not allowing my mind to psych me out. Right? I didn't want to allow my anxiety to take over and to rise. So I'm trying to just breathe, focus on one object in the room. He had a frog in the room, and I'm just looking at that frog and trying to focus on it and stay in that room and not go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then eventually you purge.
Wow.
And you vomit for, I don't know, like 3 to 5 minutes.
Wow.
And you release all the toxins in your body. And you're super clean. You feel incredible after.
Wow.
All this heavy metal that we carry around from preservatives and toxins and city and pollution all comes out through Kambo.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, and that sounds like an experience.
It's quite an experience.
Wow.
Yeah, you suffer for a good 10 minutes, but then you feel incredible after.
Wow. I learned a lot just from even this conversation, and so
real quick, one key to it is that it's those 10 minutes you're struggling to let go. That's really the fight that you're having. It's the fight of you letting go of control. Because the longer you try to hold on, the longer you'll be in that fight and you won't purge. The purge is the release, right? That's when you start to feel good. So if you're not able to give in to that experience and really understand that, stop fighting it. It is what it is. It's going to happen. It's going to go, like, you're going to go through this process.
Yeah.
The longer you'll be in it. If you keep trying to, no, it's not happening. No, stop. I don't want it. You know, if you get in that panic mode, you'll stay longer in there.
Damn. Yeah, that's wow. Now that makes me want to go read more about it.
Yeah, Kambo's cool. I would
know?
definitely suggest that you definitely give that a try.
No, that's dope. And so, even segueing back into, New York real quick.
Yep.
You being this individual that keeps an open mind, because you have to have an open mind to
100%.
start venturing into these waters and everything. Where did that part of you develop?
That's a great question. And that leads to the end of the story, right? Because I was working at Study Group, which was the prep school for that taught English to foreign students. Okay. Right. I was there for about 4 years. I went from an intern to a junior tech to a senior tech. My manager at that company got a job as an IT director working for a big insurance company, which was a sister company to AIG. And her job was going to be overseeing the IT technology for all the C-suite executives of that company. They were also requiring a senior level technician to support all the C-level executives of that company. So she pulled me with her. Third or fourth time in my life that I got pulled into a job or to a situation because someone saw value in me and saw that I'd be a great fit for it. Yeah. So that was the first billionaire that I worked for. Wow. His name is Maurice Hank Greenberg. He's the former CEO of AIG. He's one of the guys that was fired during the 2008 collapse. AIG got bought out. AIG got bailed out by the government, and part of the bailout was he had to be he was fired and had to leave his position and became CEO of the sister company called Star Company. So I worked for Star Company. So I was in that role for about a year, and I was a one-man show supporting about 30 people, all C-level suites, all C-level executives for a star company, including Mr. Greenberg. Taught me a lot. I met a lot of individuals. I've interacted with everyone from Fox News because they all used to go there, have lunch with him. I've met senators. I've met different politicians that would go and speak to him. And that began to open up my mind, right? I quit that job and I got a job being an IT director for a hedge fund billionaire named Daniel Loeb. So I was hired to be part of his home office, part of his, what's it called? Forgot what it's called, but there's a name for when rich people have a family office. Okay. So I was employed by his family office. So it's the IT guy, it's the house manager, it's the driver, it's the security guy, right? The nannies. We're all part of the family office for the billionaire.
Gotcha.
I was in charge of everything from the iPad of his daughter to the networking of his yacht or his plane. I traveled to multiple places where they lived, and I supported every single home they had. It was an amazing, amazing experience. I was there for 2.5 years. And I just learned how these people lived and how they thought and how they functioned and how they dealt with people. You know, I had access to their email addresses and their email accounts. I had keys to their house. I would travel in their private planes to different locations and stay in their homes alone with them not being there. So I was exposed to so much. You know, a kid that grew up in Brazil, that came from nothing, being exposed to all this. It was better than college. It was the best education I've ever received, was interacting with billionaires. And then I worked for another family after this one, really more for necessity. So while I was working for Greenberg, I began my entrepreneurship journey. I said, you know what? Fuck these people. I'm done working to make them rich. I see how they do things. I'm going to go imitate. I'm going to go learn and imitate, right? So I built 2 companies that failed.
Tech companies?
Yeah.
Okay.
In between Greenberg and Loeb, I took a year off. I quit Greenberg, took a year off, and tried to build 2 companies. I tried to build an app, a mobile app / website company called Innovative Apps. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't know a single thing about business or taxes or incorporating, or I didn't know anything, nothing. So I took all these courses. I paid this guy $6,000 to teach me about business. A guy named Timothy Mark, this Australian guy who built a community called the Secret Society Mastermind. And it was $6,000 to buy in. I bought in. It was like basically all the money I had saved at the time to really learn what it is to be a businessman. What is business, right? What does that even mean? And how do you do it? How do you do a landing page? How do you build a website? How do you do a funnel? How do you do all these things?
Yeah.
So eventually I didn't like where Innovative Apps was going. I didn't like the product. I didn't like anything. So I pivoted real quick to an e-commerce called a Double Espresso. I built a Shopify page. I'm sorry. Shopify, right? Not Spotify. Shopify. Yeah. I built a Shopify page. And I made deals with 4 different Italian espresso, high-end, like barista style espresso machines.
Gotcha.
Right? So I put up a website and I began selling those. It was doing pretty well for a couple of months, but it got to a point where I ran out of money and I wasn't making enough money to keep everything going.
Yeah.
So I shut everything down and went back to work. That's when I went back to Loeb and was there for 2.5 years. During that time, my wife got pregnant, and she had just graduated with her master's from Columbia as a board certified behavior analyst. So she has a license from New York State to modify the behavior of kids with special needs, in particular kids with autism.
So she's in psychology.
Exactly. She's a psychology major. She's also a licensed teacher. So at that time, she was working for now a ton of our competitors, really learning the ropes of her industry, right? So we got to a point where we're like, let's just build our own agency. You know, let's stop this hustle and bustle, and let's really build a proper agency that's going to really provide good service. She didn't like a lot of things about how these agencies were doing things, right? It was a revolving door. They underpaid therapists. It was really just a body in front of a kid. There was no structure. There was no pairing of the kid with the therapist. So we changed all that. We took all the things we didn't like that they weren't doing, and we began doing that in our agency, which really made us stand out. Blue ocean. You know, I read that book and I'm like, all right, let's switch things up.
Yeah. That's the key, literally, for almost any big business that exists now is from solving the problems of things they didn't like from prior businesses.
Exactly. And we took all of our savings and we dumped it in this company. And
how long ago was that?
2018.
Okay.
Yeah, this was 2018. No. We began the process in 2018. This was 2019. We got our first client January 2019. That's our first client. And we had the company built enough to a point where my wife got pregnant, gave birth, and never went back to work.
Wow. And so that presents me with the question of COVID. What happened during that time frame?
A lot. My son was born November 2019. Everything shut down March 2020.
Yeah.
Right? We were literally a 1.5 year old company. And at the time, we were doing both insurance-based clients and government, state, DOE-based clients. We had those two avenues of income. They both had benefits and both had problems. The benefit of the insurance was that there was consistent work and consistent pay. The downside was that they controlled how much you got paid, and they paid you peanuts. Peanuts. Like, you couldn't hire a therapist for over $19 to $20 an hour if you were only doing insurance-based, because they weren't paying you enough for you to pay the therapist and have a margin for yourself. Yeah, it's real bad. The DOE, very inconsistent pay, takes a long time to get a client, but you control how much you get paid. You dictate your price. So during COVID, New York shut down. The school system shut down. Kids were at home, not in school. And we quickly had to pivot from going in home and in school to now doing training through Zoom. We had to work and train the parents to be in front of a computer with their kid while a therapist is trying to do therapy with this child through Zoom. So that was the first problem, right? Figuring out all that dynamics, right? Getting Zoom accounts and figuring it out, and how are we going to do this? What's the right way? How are the parents going to guide it? How deep are we going to go into the curriculum? All these questions, right? And the other part was, because The government shut down. The state shut down. The DOE stopped paying us. They didn't pay us for 9 months.
Damn.
I didn't get paid from April 2020 to, I think it was December or January when we first got paid. December 2020 or January 2021 when I first got paid from the DOE. Man, I took out so many loans. I spent all my savings. I borrowed money from my aunt, from my in-laws, from my parents. I was going after money like a madman. Whoever I knew that had some type of capital that could help me, I was going after them. I think the good thing about that was that it helped me break a lot of fears about money, about going to have to ask for help and for money. It's either I do this or my company sinks.
Yeah.
Right? My employees aren't going to get paid. Clients aren't going to be serviced. And my company is going to be a one-hit wonder. A 1.5-year story destroyed by COVID. I was not going to allow that. There was no fucking way. I worked too hard, invest too much money to build this company to allow the situation to destroy me. 3 different times I had conversations with 3 different competitors of mine to buy me out. To either buy me out or to
M&A.
Yeah, give them pieces of the company, different clients. Exactly. Never did it. Stood my ground. It wasn't worth it. What they were offering me wasn't worth what I put in and what I built. So we made an executive decision to get rid of insurance-based clients. We gave all of our insurance-based clients to a sister company of ours that was built by a former employee of ours. She worked for us for a little bit and then decided to go build her own company, and we supported her and we gave her all this insurance-based clients. Why did I do that? They were costing me more than I was making. I had to trim the fat somewhere, and that was the first fat that I trimmed. I got rid of 15 clients.
Wow.
At the time, it was half of my clientele.
Damn.
Yeah. But they were weighing me down, unfortunately. Sometimes as a business owner, you got to make these hard calls. Like, I'm not completely ditching them. I'm giving them to somebody else who will provide service for them. So I'm not leaving them hanging.
Yeah.
But I can no longer do the service.
Yeah.
So I had to cut that fat. That was 1. 2, I got together with a bunch of my competitors and we sued the DOE. Yeah. We took a class action lawsuit against them.
You guys won.
And we won.
Wow.
Yeah. And by us winning, a special counsel was appointed to oversee the DOE, that division of the DOE and their payment processing. Because they were backlogged almost a year, maybe more than a year.
Wow.
So I'm very, very thankful that the right people were in my life to help me, to fund me, to allow me to keep my business going. There was a period of maybe about 2 to 3 months where I had no money, didn't pay my employees, and nobody quit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good leadership.
Yeah, because we built a culture where they knew that when the money came in, everybody was going to get paid. They understood it wasn't our fault. The city shut down, you know? So once that special counsel was in place, we completely pivoted to an only DOE agency where we dictate our rates. We can provide a better level of service because we can pay more to hire a better therapist, a better supervisor. And it's been so much better since we've done that. It's really allowed us to grow. We've grown exponentially every single year. We've just about doubled every single year.
Wow.
Yeah. And so now I want to expand to Florida. I want to open up a school. I'm going to open up a school for kids with autism in Fort Lauderdale, and an agency to go along with it. So we'll have a school only for them, where it's catered to them, that will allow them to progress so much faster.
Yeah.
And double dip with the school and the agency. So you get the school training and the home-based training.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Wow.
But COVID really, really punched me in the face, man. Like there's some really dark nights. There's some really dark days where I didn't know what the fuck to do. Like I didn't know where to pull money from. I didn't know how to run payroll the next week. I really thought that my company was going to go into shams.
And so we enter the part of the podcast where we call this gem drops. And so from a gem drops, out of everything you just said pretty much and walked everybody through, what would be 3 key things you would say to a beginning entrepreneur that is trying to start a company of any size?
Never give up. You're always 3 feet from gold. But I'm going to give it a caveat. Never give up, but know when to quit. What I mean by that is there are certain, like for example, right? I had to get rid of 15 clients. I had to learn to give that up. It was money coming in, but I had to give that up for this flower to grow further. Right? I didn't give up overall, but I gave up on that pathway because it wasn't serving me.
Yeah.
You got to understand, if a path is not serving you, if you keep hitting the brick wall, if you keep wasting energy, time, and resources, and you're not pushing through, know when to put that aside and say, it's not for me. But overall, never give up. You're always only 3 feet from gold. And that was a really tough lesson for me that I really had to learn, that like, just keep pushing through. Just keep doing. Doesn't matter how you feel. Doesn't matter what's going on around you. Keep taking action. Small actions add up, right? It compounds.
1% better a day.
Exactly.
No, that's definitely dope, man. Leo, just learning more about you, your story, the upbringing, everything, this is why I even created the podcast. I went to school for psychology, and then I was building a business at the same time.
Yeah.
My business had started to hit 6 figures, and I was like, oh, well, do I want to take the master's route and dedicate another 8 to 10 years to getting these degrees and stuff? Or do I want to go off and really just do my own thing? Because there are limitations within what you can do with, college certifications and licenses and whatnot.
For sure. They restrict you a lot.
Exactly. And so I decided to take my own route and still stay in the realm of psychology and whatnot.
A podcast is very therapeutical.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But, just even getting to sit across from somebody and authentically learn about the individual is just, there's no form of real deeper connection, because we live in a fast-paced society.
Yes.
And we don't get to slow down and actually get to learn somebody across from us. It's always jumping straight into, how can I make money from you? How can you make money from me? How can we make money together, instead of just
what can I get out of you instead of, just listening.
Exactly. And so
what can I learn from you instead?
Exactly. And so, man, I appreciate everything.
I appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you could be here. And
me too.
If you have anything that you want to leave the people with, if they want to tap in with you, learn more about what you do, how to interact with you, where could they do that?
100%. My IG at Leo Climaco, or my website, leoclimaco.com. Tap in. I'm starting August 1st. My 6-week Come to Your Truth, Unleash Your Alpha coaching course. I'm going to be dropping a training course online and a guided coaching course with me. So DM me Unleashed Alpha to learn more.
Absolutely, man. Leo, it was a pleasure. And if you like this episode, make sure you share it, subscribe, share with somebody. This is an amazing story. Somebody just being vulnerable enough to guide you through their process, their losses, their wins, everything. And man, we just learned a lot. And as we always say, it's your host, Mastermind Rich here. And the motto, we look good, we live good. Life is good. Talk to us. We talk back, and we out.